What is up, everybody? Welcome to the live. This is your brother Shamar with Ancient Watchmen. Um, yeah, gather around. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the live. We have a very interesting subject tonight. We're gonna wait for our brothers to join. Anybody that's gonna join in later, welcome to the live. This is your brother Shamar, aka Oscar with the Ancient Watchmen. I'm gonna share the link. There is a brother that's gonna come and he's gonna break it down for us. What is that? What does that mean, right? The maritime law, the Admiralty law, the laws of the seas, right? And how that pertains to the world today, right? How is that? How is that law basically subjugating and enslaving humanity in various levels? So, welcome to live. Let me share the link with the brother and see if he's ready to come on the live. Give me a minute. There it is, right there. All right. Let me see. Give me a minute, brother. Give me a minute. Um, brother, if you're there in the background, the link is in the chat group right now. If you click on the chat group or chat room right now, it's right there. I'm gonna post it on the screen. You see it? It's right there. That's StreamYard. As a matter of fact, let me copy it and post it on your let's see. How can we do this? All right, there. Okay. All right, I'm gonna send you the link on the chat group. Okay, give me a minute. Let's see. I'm ready. Okay. Hey, brother. This is the link right there. All right, everybody. Welcome to the live. Yeah, once again, like I said, you guys, I don't no longer subscribe to the Bible and some of the ideas of the Bible, but that's another topic for tonight. Tonight we're gonna talk about, I guess, we would call it more a geopolitical topic that pertains to the rulers of this planet. It pertains to how this planet moves around when it comes to governmental structure, and then what that entails for us, for the like the people that are not aware of that information, because the information that's going to be brought out tonight is going to be powerful for the individual that has awakened in a higher level. When I say higher level, I'm not saying that those people or we are better than you guys or whatever. That's not what it's saying. There's various levels to everything in life, right? Just kind of like when you guys go to work, and you guys are employee, you guys have a manager above you, or even if you're the manager, there's like someone above you, and then beyond that someone, there's someone above that person, and beyond that person, there's someone above that person. You know what I'm saying? So there's like levels to these, right? And so we we need to understand like the layers of government on this planet, the many layers that have been established here on this planet for thousands of years. Okay, this is an understanding that's been around for quite some time. As a matter of fact, let me open that. Let me open with that. I'm gonna read you something real quick, and then we're gonna move on to. I'm gonna bring the brother on. So, but welcome to live, everybody. Those who are gonna watch later, this is your brother Shamar, aka Oscar, with the Ancient Watchman, and yeah, it's gonna be a non. I don't know. I think I'm gonna touch on some religious aspects, because even the New Testament in the book of Revelation speaks about these things that we're gonna talk about right now in a minute. So give me a minute. Hold on. Where's that? Okay. Matter of fact, let me bring the brother on. Chandelian.
How
Chandalin,
you doing,
brother.
brother?
What's going on, brother? Welcome to live.
Hey, how you doing, brother? Good day. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Thank you, man.
No, man, it's actually an honor for you to be here because the conversation just like sprung out of nowhere because I was sharing something with your wife on Guardians of Truth, Facebook group, and then she mentioned something about you. It's like, oh yeah, my husband, he talks about like some of the things that I was saying, and I'm not well versed when it comes to that. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure you know more than I do. So the floor is yours. But before we go on, like just introduce yourself. Like I've never met you. I never even talked to you on Facebook until like your wife mentioned you, and so that's why I send you a friend request and stuff, and now we're here. So I believe that humanity is going through a phase of divine appointment where you have different people coming together from different backgrounds of the world, right, where we have to be united rather than divided. And so,
Yeah,
that's kind of like we can really go down the rabbit hole and just explore that aspect of like the reality of this world. You know what I'm saying? We're like we're fighting wars, we're killing each other for what? We're dividing ourselves because of my religion is better than yours and my God is better than your God. And so there is this division that has taken place, like not just like at a physical level but at a subconscious and spiritual levels, because now there's these other forms of government places that are going to take place later on in the digital age, and you guys know what I'm talking about, artificial intelligence. But yeah, introduce yourself, like kind of like give us a little bit of background, like what your journey is, or like what do you do with your life, or things like that, just kind of like so people can get to know
yeah,
you before we dive deep into the
no
subject matter.
problem. Man, well, okay, well, yeah, you spoke with my partner, Eileen. She's my partner, not married yet, but she's my partner, and yeah, we met in the same way, interviewing. She started interviewing me because of the topics I was sharing. I am. It's been around 7 to 8 years that I started changing uh, my normal, well, cultural self. Right. I started changing. I started adapting new habits. So what I first changed was my diet. I was very sick, and I started using herbs, local herbs, and I got into it so much so that I live in Belize, right? So Belize is a small country. Within all of Belize, there's probably about 375,000 to 390,000 people. So we don't even have half a million. And so right here, it's very popular to use herbs. So I started using it and learning more about it. So when the 2.5 years ago to 3 years ago, sometimes when this whole uh, COVID thing started hitting the scene, um, I was very vocal about not being for that. I was very vocal, and I started making videos explaining, making my stand, and they were issuing out tickets right here, $500 tickets if you didn't have a mask on. They wouldn't allow people to enter certain buildings. They would. It was very, very weird. It was very odd for me, and I didn't wear the mask, and I got the tickets, and I went to court, and they always said that they couldn't find it because I challenged it and I make videos of it. So it wasn't until I they came to my house and I had a cannabis plant, and this plant that I had right in front of my house, and everybody knew I had it, and but I was organizing along with a few other people a big like rally here in Belize, and a few weeks right before that rally, they came and they took the plant away and they arrested me, and I went to court for that, and I didn't know much about um, law and legalities as much. I didn't have that much experience in it. All I knew that I had some experience in the U.S. But I knew that when I went here to court, I realized that the court here in Belize is basically a little room with a magistrate, prosecutor, and another officer. So I went into the court and I looked around and I said, "This is odd. There's nobody recording anything here, so it's okay. It's probably because it's poor country and whatnot. That's how we are right here. But still, I found it very odd. And they kept asking me if I was guilty, and I kept saying, well, they kept asking me for my name, and I said, well, the name I used is Chandan, but it's not who I am. They said, well, what's your name? I said, so I didn't know much. All I knew that I wasn't my name. I kept saying that, insisting that, kept telling them I'm a man, and that I want a court of records. That's what I don't that's what the authority that I don't mind being under in the court of records. So they didn't want to hear none of that. So what they did is they sent me to prison for 15 days, and they call it remand. So when I came back out, the only option they said is either you say guilty or you're not guilty. Either you do that or we remand you again. So they don't want to hear nothing right here. I noticed that here it's very, very rough. So I just said not guilty, and then I started enroll. I started learning a little bit more about this whole law and legal system. More and more I got into it, the more I realized certain things that I wasn't aware of, and I started learning more about how the birth certificate creates a legal entity in which this legal entity there's rules and there's laws for this legal entity, and if this legal entity breaks one of those laws and rules, then we, the man or woman, are held somewhat liable for it. Started learning more about that, and the more I dug, the more I found that it gets just deeper and deeper and deeper in terms of the language that is used in courts. Then I found out about the different jurisdictions of law. L for land, A for air, W for water, and how each of these jurisdictions there's a different set of language, or there's a language pertaining to that jurisdiction, meaning there's certain words that mean certain things in that jurisdiction. And also, I started learning about how the the re well, the reason why these courts don't seem to be a constitutional courts is because they're private courts, corporate courts, being managed by a private agency, which is the Bar Association. And I started realizing that it's a big, big, big system, corporate system that they're they're acting in certain suits and certain roles um, in this thing that we assume to be a court. And what they're doing is that they're not doing anything constitutional. Basically, they're just operating administrative business. I know that from what I've heard a lot about and what I've come to understand is in, like, for example, in the US, it's going to be a little bit different. That's what's happening in Belize and where you are. You're in Austria, right?
Yeah,
You're in
yeah.
Austria? Yeah,
No,
so
no, no.
I'm,
I'm not in Austria. I'm in the
where are
US,
you?
in the
Oh,
USA.
oh, my bad. So you're in the USA. Okay, so I know that in the US, there's a lot of talk about how what they're doing is basically, accessing a trust. And so once you start getting into this, it seems that you have to learn a little bit more and a little bit more about what is a trust, um, and in what jurisdiction does it stand. I mean, you can do a trust under common law, you can do a trust under these legislative acts. Is it the same? So what I eventually tried out, basically little by little, was um, how to put these governmental agencies on notice and let them know who I am, and let them understand that where I'm coming from is I'm gonna look at it all strictly business from now on. I'm not gonna take it personal. It's all business. And so I started doing that. I started sending out notices. I sent out notice of termination to every minister in every position here in Belize, letting them know that the way I understand things to be is that their oaths of office, and I found their oaths of office is an allegiance to the corporation Belize and to the Queen, to the Crown. And because of that, they cannot represent me unless they can show me proof that one can serve two masters. So because they don't represent me, I don't feel that they represent me. I will. Here's a letter officially letting them know that they do not have my consent to make any decisions for me. They can't represent me in anything. And here's my name. This is who I. Uh, this is who I am. This is the family I'm from. This is my name, and it's a copyrighted name. So I let them know. I sent them all notices, and I put them on. I basically fired them. And what I then did is I retired from driving. I sent notifications to everybody, all municipalities, all um, all departments of transport. I sent them a notice telling them, look, I'm studying law, and this is what I've come to understand the laws to be. And I retire from driving because I understand the driver is a commercial status, and I understand that by registering my property, my car, I am handing it over to them, creating a trust, and where they're handing it back over to me as trustee, and it's no longer my property, and I'm being given also with that a commercial title, and makes me an incorporated person in the legal system of which I would not consent to be. I'm not going to do that. And I then sent them. I also attached a letter of conditional acceptance, saying, you know what, I quit. I quit and I retire from driving. However, I would still consider driving for them if they pay me a certain fee from Monday to Friday, and Saturday another fee, and Sunday another fee. And I listed a few uh, of my conditions, and I sent everything out to them. And I put my own plates in my car, and two of my I have a pickup and I have an SUV, so I put it on both of them. And then I made another paper that basically it's a notice to it because right here we have checkpoints frequently in different parts of the country, and I travel a lot. So what I did is I printed out a notice for them to understand that this my car is private car and it's under private bond, and all of their governmental authorities have been put on notice. And if they do trespass on this private property, it'll cost them a certain amount of money for performance. And so I haven't had any problems. I pass all checkpoints, and this is a small country. A lot of people have heard of what I've done. I put it on Facebook. I talk about it a lot, and I had another man do it as well. Like about 3 months after I did it, he did it. He did it the same way that I did it, and a lot of people are talking about it. And what's really coming to light is how how the system operates and how it's being fraudulently used and manipulated. And it's basically due to us, the people, being a little bit, um, well, we are not handling our private affairs properly. Not maybe not because we don't have that knowledge. It's because we weren't prepped for it. It would be this is something that is usually I believe that this type of knowledge right here is passed down, and you're prepped for it to understand all of this, because the common man, like right here in Belize, the common man don't even know what the term liability means, or bond. What the hell does that mean? They don't know what these things are. Um, we, our educational system does not accommodate that type of knowledge or that type of information to be given so freely to the people. So right here, the people we don't know. We when we got hit with that whole restrictions, mandates. Oh man, the people didn't know how to fight back. Nobody liked it. but they went along with it, you know. But yeah, I mean, I could go on, bro. I have so much that has happened from then to now, and I'm currently writing down my common law copyright for my trade name, and trade name for my daughter, trade name for my son. I'm putting it out on the newspaper and putting everybody on notice, and I'm going to I have a few ways of getting my remedy because I think that what everybody's looking for mainly is how to get remedy in today's unfair and unjust seeming legal system. And um, and what I've come to learn is that there's a lot of different ways to get remedy. It depends, you know, how you want to do it. Because at the end of the day, it's all fiction that we're dealing with. Everything is fiction that we're dealing with. It's not real. What makes it real is our collective belief and acting. It's all acts. And we're accustomed to giving power and authority to these uniforms. As soon as somebody puts a uniform, we automatically give them uh, this power. And it comes with this indoctrination in school, right? So, but yeah, I mean, what exactly have you learned about this too? I mean, do you have any questions for me so far? Because I'm just going on and on and on.
No, man. I think what you brought out. Let me let me say that what you brought out. It was probably like a lot for a lot of people that do not understand what we're talking about. Okay. And yeah, that was very powerful what what you shared, bro. Because yeah, it's kind of like one of those things that makes you wonder: are we really free? Right. And so what the brother is really going into is it's called the Maritime Law, which like going back to the 1540s, the etymology of that word is pertaining to the sea, from Middle French maritime, or directly from Latin maritimus, of the sea, near the sea, from mare, genitive maris, or sea, which goes back to the Latin ending timus. Originally, it's a superlative suffix, which goes into the words intimus, in most, ultimus, and last. So that's kind of like what the word goes into, because it even what is it? It crosses over the very intimate foundation between a man and a woman, which we go into contracts of marriage, right? Because when you guys marry, under your names, under the power invested by someone through the power of the Roman papacy, that has been established on a new Babylon, which is Egypt, spiritual Egypt, which is America, right? This is all prophesied going back to ancient times. So it says that the maritime law, also called Admiralty law, or Admiralty, Admiralty, the body of legal rules that govern ships and shipping. In English-speaking countries, admiralty, admiralty is sometimes used synonymously, but in a strict sense, the term refers to the jurisdiction and procedural law of courts whose origins may be traced to the office of admiral. So, and that's basically what the brother was going into, like the rules that we are engaged into the society. Today we're engaged in a game of chess, and a lot of people don't understand that, because obviously you guys know the powers that we have established. What would you call it? Entertainment ideologies through TV systems and shows and Netflix series and stuff. And by the way, they put a lot of this truth out there in the movies anyway. So, but like a lot of people are distracted. So this is kind of like what the brother was trying to explain, that that we are being ruled by something darker than what we even think about or even imagine. Although etymologically maritime law and law of the sea are identical, the former term is generally applied to private shipping law, whereas the latter The latter, usually prefixed by international, quote unquote, has come to signify the maritime segment of public international law. The Convention on the Law of the Sea, on the other hand, is a UN agreement. You see that? The United Nations came with this agreement regarding territorial waters, sea lanes, and ocean resources. The convention was originally signed by 119 nations on December 10, 1982. So, um, so yes, so I know that you mentioned that you were talking about that you send letters so that you were trying to disconnect from the system. Is that what's going on? That's why you like you deny your rights to drive and you don't drive anymore, or like how do you move around
Well,
on like on this planet?
well, yeah. Like, so what it is that I understood. This is how I understood it, right? Just so to catch up with people is that, so to make it simple, to simplify it. Then, okay. So what I got from it is that there's a history, right? There's a history involved in all of this, and we the people have been for the most part distracted in by investing a lot of time in watching a lot of maybe movies and whatnot, and we haven't been paying attention in how the system of law and the system of legalities have evolved and grown and expanded, and so what I know about Admiralty and Maritime is that it's a very good system, and it for commercial activity. It is used for commerce. It's and how it was used to expand commerce and to convert people into property is because you see, um, in commerce, if things are abandoned or are assumed abandoned, how about that? Is assumed abandoned. Somebody can come and make a declaration and say, you know what? Well, I want to claim this abandoned thing, right? And I want to give it a name, right? So they give it a title and they claim it. So what Admiralty does and Maritime does is it's the law of the sea, which obviously if in the sea something is abandoned, something is afloat, or there's a ship afloat, there's a vessel somewhere just abandoned, then anybody can claim it, right? Per se. And once you claim the abandoned vessel, you can give it a name or give it a title. So if you give it a title, now it's now yours, and you can use it in commercial activity, right? Um, but if it causes a damage, if it causes some loss, then obviously who's going to be held liable for it, right? So then there's liabilities involved. So what happens is that when we're born as a man or a woman, a vessel for commercial activity is created. What does that mean? Is a straw man or a legal person is created. It's like a company. Is when we register a company and we create an entity in a company. So when we create a company, we do it ourselves and we give it a name and we declare it. We do it all on our own under the law. Then we did it. It's our property. We can claim it as such, and we can put it in a trust, or we can use it as an asset that's ours. But because in this case the state makes registers the company name, or registers a straw man, registers the legal entity, the legal entity is supposed to be, or the person is supposed to be for the benefit of the man or the woman, right? It's supposed to be used as a commercial vessel. And the man and the woman is the commercial energy behind that vessel. So usually that's supposed to be something that we under common law should declare as ours and make a declaration, make a formal declaration, it's ours and we created it and this is how much it costs to do business with it, and if somebody trespasses it, damages, but these are the fees, and we're supposed to put on notice. whoever we need to. So we're supposed to know how to handle our business and our affairs. But if we do not know how to do those things, it is assumed that we need it done for us. We need administrative assistance. How about that? In order to manage our commercial affairs, right? So because they create this birth certificate, what happens is that they put it as beneficial, they put as themselves as beneficiaries in public trusts. So we, in terms, go about our business believing that the name, whenever it's used for commercial activity, we believe that that name is who we are. And then whenever that name is mentioned in utterance or in paper or claims are made or anything, we assume the position that will hold all accountability and liability for it, right? So, and because of that, we are not in the beneficial position because they're administrating that legal entity. So that legal entity can be considered our an asset or an estate. It's a property. It has some value. It has a commercial value. I was looking into it and I was thinking about what does that mean? What is that an estate, a name, birth certificate has value? Because if you look at the birth certificate, I see the one that I have right here, and I've seen the one from the States because my kids have a birth certificate from the US. And at the bottom it says is a bank note. Right? It's a bank note. So interestingly enough, the birth certificate
Okay.
it does say it is a bank note. So what's a bank note? What is a bank note? So now when you learn a little bit about how the banking industry works, you run into a few things, which is a bank note, a legal tender, and promissory notes. And these are basically essentially the similar things. So I'm gonna give you an example, right? Let's say you have a car that I need to borrow for the next week, and I say, brother, man, I need to borrow a car. I need to borrow your car. And you say, all right, no problem, man. Tell you what, you pay me this much, right? And I'll let you borrow the car. And I say, you know what, I don't have anything to pay you right now. But you know I'm a farmer, right? You know that I am a farmer, and in within 3 months' time, my crop is gonna be ready. So I'll tell you, guess what, brother? I can't pay you right now, but I can give you a promise. I can promise to pay you when my crop is ready. And I sign a piece of paper and I say, you know what, when this date when my crop is supposed to be ready, I am promised to give you so much amount of my vegetables and whatnot. And although now you accept it and you let me borrow the car, you let me use the car. So although I didn't pay for it on demand, I satisfied it. I satisfied it, right? With a promise to pay. So as a man, I have that type of commercial energy or that commercial value that I can promise to pay something based on the labor that I can put in commercial world by just me being alive, you know, because I, the living man, I'm the one who is going to use this commercial world, and so I give credit, I give energy to the commercial world. So anyway, in the banking system, if they want to buy something from us, what does the bank, which is a non-living entity, it is a commercial entity, a fiction, something with no life, it doesn't have the labor of man like I have or like you have. So if it wants to pay us for something, let's say I have a piece of land that's worth $1 million, right? And a house and
Right.
everything on it. You have $1 million, and I want, and I've already put it on paper. I put the appraisal on it. I got the estimate, the value, everything. It's already on paper. I have everything word legit. It says $1 million, but I want to monetize maybe $100,000 from it, right? So what I can do is I can do a certificate for it of my asset, and I monetize it, and I go to a bank and I tell them, hey, I want to sell this to you. So the bank can purchase that. They can purchase it and it can pay me. It's not going to pay me the, for it completely. It's going to satisfy me with something, which is very similar to what I can do as a promise to pay, which is their version of a promise to pay is called a bank note or legal tender. So all legal tenders are basically promise to pay us back for some asset or some security, some securitized financial instrument. So whenever, and this goes back to the loans, right? So a lot of people say, well, wait a minute. How come they say that the loans that we get are not really loans? What does that mean? What's that all about? And I was surprised to find out too, once you learn a little bit about how the financial system works, is basically, it's like they don't really give out anything. Uh, Again, the banking system is a system of fiction. They don't have anything to give, and they can't lend other people's assets and other people's hard-earned money. They can't lend that. So again, what they do is they they have two faces. One is they have a public side. In the public side, they tell people that they can give out a loan. On the private side, uh, people who are well knowledgeable know that the bank don't have anything to give out really. Banks can monetize whatever assets you have, whatever valuable things that you have. So when we go to the bank and fill out loan papers, we're giving them information. They're asking us, okay, what do you have? Do you have a job? Do you have a car? Do you have a house? What do you got? All they're basically doing is something that you could be doing and I could be doing for ourselves. But they're doing it for us. And because they're doing it for us, they're doing it in a certain way that is beneficial to them. And because we don't know the difference, we can't identify this. We don't understand the jargon. We don't understand uh, the history of how banking system was made. We don't even know what legal tender means. So they manage this and administrate the monetization of whatever assets we tell them we have. So if we tell them, hey, we have all of this, and they're gonna say, oh well, we can we can give you a loan. Then you qualify for a loan. That's in the public side. But in the private side, what they're basically telling you is, okay, well, yeah, sure, we can probably sell this much amount of your assets in the stock market. And well, you sign the papers, right? And you're thinking that you're signing something, a promise to pay them back. But it's not that. You're promising not to pay them back with legal tender, but with credit, with commercial energy. So again, what does that mean? And we'll get to that right now. But so by the time in the private side, in the public side, you think that they're processing your loan. What they're actually doing on the private side is they're trying to sell that piece of asset, which is the promissory note, that financial instrument that has your signature, which is the signature, the sign of nature, the sign of man, that holds commercial value, divine energy. So they're trying to sell it. And when they manage to sell it, if they do manage to sell it at a certain period of time, what they do is then they notify you. And on the public side, if you don't know better, they say, hey, you qualified for your loan. It was approved. But in the private side, what happened is that they finally sold that piece of that security instrument, that financial instrument, and now they're going to pay you back for it. So they pay you back, and the only way they can pay you back is with their bank notes. Pay you back with a bank note. Now they tell you, hey, that loan on the public side is right there in your account. Now you think you got a loan because you don't know better. But in the private side, what happened was an even trade. You sold them a piece of your assets. You monetized some of your assets, and they're the medium on how to do that. They're the medium instrument or to monetize from the divine energy, something you can't really see, but you monetize it into something you can, tangible, something, some paper, right? So it's a conversion into fiction. So that's what they do. So now, because we don't know the private side of how all this works, we continue to believe the public side. We don't understand how the private side works. We don't know about the monetization. We believe the public side. So we believe that we do have to pay back this loan. And we believe that we have to pay back interest. And we believe that if we don't pay it back, they can take away our stuff. And what really happened is that all you did is that you monetized some of your assets and you got paid for it. And that should have been the end of case. And you should have said, okay, well, you already paid me. You already satisfied the sale of the my assets that I gave you. You already satisfied it with the legal tender that you gave me. So I just want to discharge it now. Okay, so we done. So that should have been the end of the transaction. Now the only reason that again this doesn't happen, doesn't is not recognized, is that we don't understand uh, just like I don't fully understand it, but I'm aware of it now that there is a credit system involved in where because they took away the gold and the gold and silver standard of put and we no longer can pay anything in gold and silver with gold and silver, it's because we don't have to, because the remedy was also given, which I that's how I recognize it, is that everything is prepaid in this society. The light bill, the water bill, everything is prepaid, because all of the public's assets is already in trust and it's being used and it's supposed to be for the benefit of the people. But the people have not corrected the status in those public trusts, have not created their own private trusts, have not copyrighted their name, have not claimed and trademarked their name, have not done much about their estates or about anything. So everything is being administered by corporations right now. And corporations use maritime law, Admiralty law. They use it because it is the law of fiction. It works really well. It's a commercial, and everybody uses it. And international commerce was, I believe, the true world order that brought everybody together. I don't think that anything else can. We are already unified internationally with commercial markets, and that binds us, you know. And again, um, the credit system is there if we want it, and if you want to read more about it, I encourage people to look at the called the bills of exchange. The bills of exchange is a tough read. It looks like English, but it's very cryptic. But it says it right there. How to pay a bill is to just accept it and become the holder in due course. And that's how you that's how you pay a bill, apparently. So this is a very interesting stuff. Once, but again, like how you mentioned earlier, it might be a lot for people who are just hearing about this to take in. Um, but when I first started, I know that it was more like, oh, you gotta say that you're a man, and yeah, you have to say that you're a man. And you have to know about the Seste KV Trust. Definitely, you have to know about the Seste KV Trust. But what is happening is actually a very simple thing. Is that there are corporations right now that are offering governmental services, and these governmental services are strictly and lawfully and legally only there by the consent of the people. It's only being imposed by the consent of the people, and it is we the people that have not set
You
certain
said
things in
you,
place.
you said something very powerful right there. That wow, like that probably is gonna probably blew over people's heads right now, or whoever's watching, or those who are gonna watch later. And I know that the brother's bringing out a lot of information, but we're gonna have a time to dissect like some of the points that he's bringing out, because everything that he's bringing out is very, very powerful. But this last statement that he made, when he mentioned that the only reason why, right, the only reason why the powers that be have been subjugating humanity at the various levels that they have is because humanity has allowed it until this
Yeah.
very day. Without our magic, without our energy, without our attention, without our whatever, right? They are nothing, bro. And that's basically what they
Yeah.
are afraid of. And this is why, this is when they begin to shut down everything else. This is when they begin to like freak out. And so that's basically what happened during the pandemic. That's exactly what happened. They were freaking out because a lot of stuff was being brought out to the surface, to the light of truth, and a lot of things were being brought out during the pandemic. A lot of people, weren't paying attention. A lot of people were, but the whole point is that is within our power to like, and I understand it's like what Jishai was saying in his comment. He was like, this brother understands, referring to you. If he's like, I've talked about this for years, but I'm still a product because I haven't gone through it at the extent. And that's basically a lot of people. Like, I have the same knowledge. I understand, like, how things are working out now. That I'm more mature, and then I've matured a little bit more and stuff, and I'm still growing. I'm not saying that I have attained it all, but I'm still learning as well. So, but yeah, that's powerful, brother. Let me just kind of like touch on this real quick before we kind of dive deep into the whole thing. And because I was talking about the Convention on the Law of the Sea, which was an United Nation agreement regarding territorial waters, sea lanes, and ocean resources. The convention was originally signed by 119 nations on December the 10th, 1982. Now, in the book of Revelations, chapter 17, verse 15, it says, "And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues." Revelation 17:15, basically going into like the aspects of how the Roman Empire was ruling back in those days, right? Um, I'm gonna read this piece of history, and then I'm gonna let the brother kind of like elaborate more, because like this is very powerful information that a lot of people have died for. People have died for this information. People have been threatened. Their lives have been threatened because of this information. If you think outside the box, then you're the enemy of the state, right? And that's exactly what happened when they're trying to silence everybody else. Even during the pandemic, when a lot of the doctors were coming out to speak the truth of what was really going on, a lot of the doctors lost their license, and nurses, what happened. I don't want to go into the details, but let me read this little piece of history. It says, from the fact that the ancient Egyptians engaged in shipping on a wide scale, it can be inferred that they had at least ru- rudimentary laws regulating that activity. Although no trace of any has been found thus far, nor is there anything known of any maritime laws of the Phoenicians, who succeeded the Egyptians as commercial leaders in the Mediterranean. Um, that Rhodes was a major source of maritime law. However, is clearly indicated in two passages from the Digest, AD 533, of the Roman Emperor Justinian. The first quotes the Emperor Antonius' reign from AD 138 to 161. In a case of plunder following a shipwreck, quote, "I am indeed Lord of the world, but the law is the Lord of the sea. This matter must be decided by the maritime law of the Rhodians, provided that no law of ours is opposed to it." End quote. The second is a statement by the basic law of the, quote, "general average," end quote, with the digest which the digest attributes to the Rhodians. That's Rhodians, quote, "average," end quote. Here means any loss sustained by a vessel or its cargo. When one segment of a maritime venture is sacrificed to save others, the average is described as general, and the owners of the property saved must help make good the loss. Thus, if cargo is jettisoned in a successful effort to refloat a grounded vessel. The owners of the vessel and of the cargo saved are obligated to bear proportionate shares of the loss sustained by the owner of the cargo singled out for sacrifice. And that's basically exactly how like what the brother was bringing out is basically that humans are nothing more than like a product on the market. Every single day, like our lives are being like what would you call it? They're being they're being traversed between the mediums of the economic systems in New York, in the stock market and exchange and all that stuff. That's what the brother was saying, that your birth certificate is nothing more than like some sort of like what were you saying, that it's kind of like a banknote or
Well,
something?
well, the thing is, you see, the birth certificate is man, it's multidimensional. You can use it for a lot of things because it's. I want you to think about it like this, right? Too, like I give this example, a simple example of what a bond is. So obviously, we have a car. It's a property, right? It's a property which you can claim it as your property if you want to, right? And you can put it in trust. In the private side, as long as you have it in your private side, you and it's an expensive car, you can put it in a private trust or in a bank as an asset that has it's valuable. But in the public, as soon as that car goes into the public, it is now a liability. Why? Because it can cause an accident. It might, run somebody over. It might cause damage to another car. So it's a liability. Now, there's liability in the public side. Think about it like that. The public. You can look at the public as being run by the maritime law, right? Because everything is commerce in public. And as soon as you go into public, you can you can engage in commercial activity with other, private men and women. But if you see that car gets into an accident, so it cannot pay, or it cannot remedy that issue. It cannot remedy that problem itself. It needs somebody to back it up. So if you say, guess what, I will pay for what the damage is. I am the man, I'm the creditor, I'll pay for the damages. So because you assume that role, liability, you now have bonded that car, right? So that's a bond. Now that property right there been bonded and can pay for its damages, right? So now I want you to think about it like this: is that the birth certificate creates a legal person, which it's a vessel. It creates like a car, so you can travel commercial. You can travel commercially and do business as. So now that legal title, that name, that right there, that in the birth certificate, it can get into some type of liability, some problem. It can run into something. What are the liabilities of it? Well, those are the statutes, the legislations, the codes, the bylaws, those things that are there in the public side. I mean, in the private, I mean, yeah, in the public side, sorry. So those liabilities right there, right? This legal person can get into those damages right there. You can get into those legal engagements. So what happens is that because we, the man and the woman, have not given them, the state, the government, how do you call it, these corporate service providers, we haven't given them proper notice of who we are and what we are declaring ourselves to be in that public trust. We are not letting them know that we are assuming the role of beneficiaries. We are not saying anything. So because of that, that legal person that they create, that birth certificate that they create, it's a property that they can use to do whatever they want with it, right? And because it's a bank note, because those things are the securities. Those birth certificates are the securities that a country has, and it gives it to the bank, right? And these securities are backed up. These birth certificates are bonded. Why is it bonded? Because we, the people, unknowingly will agree to hold all liabilities, right? So these birth certificates hold these legal entities, these titles or registration of legal persons, that There's commercial, there's somebody that's going to hold the liability. So it's a security. So these birth certificates are also securities or bonds, which the banks use to create money for the country. So they buy these things and pay the country back, right? With the only thing that they can pay us with, which is legal tender. So all these bank notes that are in circulation are basically the, the people's money that is already theirs. It's theirs. So everything already that has been put in place, all these commercial venues, they've already been paid for with the trust accounts, these public trusts, these bonds, these securitized instrument that is being monetized. So now, when we hear, like for example, here in Belize, when we hear Belize owes a debt of $1 trillion, let's say, well, again, you got to listen to that carefully. This is how I'm just giving you my interpretation. I don't want people to think that this is the fact. This is strictly my perspective and my opinion. I'm not trying to tell anybody this is fact. I'm just coming from that point of view as an opinion. So when we look at Belize owes $1 trillion, well, I want you to look at it again. The people owe $1 trillion, or the company, registered company Belize, owes $1 trillion. Who owes $1 trillion? Because if it's the company, which it is, then the people don't have to pay anything. But why are the people paying taxes? Why are the people assuming that they have to pay these taxes and they have to pay light bill, water bill? Why are they assuming that the paper money has value? Right? Again, because we don't understand what money is. We don't
Yeah,
understand. We don't know
before
the history.
you mentioned something about taxes, and I was going over my post, and I brought this out. That was 2014, and I said that the corporation uses civil law to control and taxes. Civil law is based on Roman law, which I'm gonna kind of go into in a little bit later. It says Roman law is a legal system, but not the law of the land. Britain uses common law jurisdiction. So, and this is basically what happens when, like, I don't know if you guys remember that name, Sherry Peel Jackson is basically she was an ex IRS agent, which basically
Yeah,
exposed how the IRS is still stealing from the American population at this very moment. So that's
yeah,
it's all connected.
yeah. But see, but this is the thing, is that you can break it down. This is what I want to do. Is I want to make an analogy. I want to compare it to something that we, the people of today, or the regular people of today, at least can make sense of it. Because if we bring up
Right.
terminology from the ancients, from the past, it's hard, really. Not anybody can get it. But let's look at it like this, right? And I make a comparison. Right here in Belize, we have the public laws, and they're called the substantive laws of Belize, right? Those are the laws of Belize, the substantive laws of Belize. But then we also have
Explain that a
the
little bit.
no, but then we also have the Constitution of Belize. Now I want to explain this, right? The Constitution of Belize is the same thing like the Constitution of the United States, but then there's the substantive laws of the Belize. Now, what's the substantive laws of Belize? From what I've been able to figure out, is that, well, that is for the public side. Now think about this. Now, Belize, the territory, the land, has been overlaid with a fiction, with a two-dimensional thing, which is we call it territory, and it's given a title. So then you can put paperwork on it. So in this piece of land right here, the biggest registered company is called the government of Belize. Now, this big company right here has a lot of employees, has a lot of public officers. And all these public officers are just regular people who have now been incorporated. Now, I want you to think about this. Under the Constitution, we have the right to travel, right? We have the right to travel in our own private conveyance. And if I want, I have the right to walk barefooted if I want. And if I want, I could eat whenever I want. I can, walk around without a shirt. I don't have to do a lot of things. I'm a man. I have the right to do these things. But as soon as I enter into a contract with a company that I want to assume the role of a position of an employee, an employment status. Now I must waive some of my rights. And now I am consenting to being governed by the policies, the corporate policies. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah.
So by by being employed, you now have to give up some of your rights. And now you have these corporate policies. Now, when we are not incorporated, we're just free people of the land, that constitution outlines the rights that we have. And it also reminds public servants of these rights that private people have, and that, this is the supreme laws of the land, which is the people. We are supposed to be the ones to bring up the law. Now, when the substantive laws of Belize, that now you can look at it as that's the laws, the corporate laws, the laws of the corporation called Belize. Those are policies. It's like this. You have a company, let's say you have an oil company, it's a big oil company, and you have, let's say, Walmart. Now, these are two companies right there. They're big, big, big companies, and they have their own set of policies and rules. Now, they can make any policies they want, and the people working for them have now consented to abide by those policies, but they cannot make laws for the people outside of that corporation. Does that make sense? So
Right,
because
right, right.
they can't make laws outside, they're confined, they're limited, their limitations are strictly to that, the corporate limitations. Wherever their corporation ends, that's where their authority ends. So they cannot make laws for the people. But it is until you join the society or become a member. So now I want you to think about it. Let's go back again. The Constitution of Belize, or the Constitution of the United States, let's say, those are for free people. That you can use it. You can use it. You can use common law right there, and you can use commerce. You're free to do that if you want to. But if you do not know how to do that, well, guess what? There is a corporation assuming the role of government that can take care of all of those needs for you. And it has it in many, many different ways. And it'll do it for you as long as you pledge allegiance or incorporate yourself. So by getting a social security card, by getting a bank account, by doing these different, by these pledges, meaning that by accepting a benefit from them, we also receive certain obligations, right? And we then now fall under company policies. So what is running the world right now is all corporations, and all the laws that people think they're under are not their laws, but instead they're corporate policies, and they don't understand that what the public system or the public governing system is assuming everybody to be is an employee, right? And
Right.
the commercial name, that all capital name, well, we're using it, but it's not it's assumed that it's not our property. Why? Because I want you to think about it. Everything is trust. When we were born, our mom or dad, whoever, they registered us in a registrar, and that company created something for the benefit of the child, of the baby. um, it's a property though, right? Now we have you I have a birth certificate, I have it with me right now. So I have been holding a property which I didn't create. I don't even have proof that I created it, but if you look at that piece of paper and you authenticate it, you'll find out who created it. And he who created it controls it. That's a maxim of law. So because they create it, they can control it, meaning that they can say, well, you, the baby or the man, are going to be the trustee. You've been entrusted with this property, and now as a trustee, if if you don't follow your obligations, you don't comply with your obligations, and if you go out of those obligations, then you breach the contract, and now you are subject to penalties for non-performance because you're not performing properly. So
Right, right.
the birth certificate is something, it's a property in which we now have to know how to claim, as not necessarily, it doesn't have to claim as our property, it's all ours, but we can claim it and assume a position, a role, and say we are the beneficiaries of it. And guess what? You're the trustee. So, like me, I personally, I'm considering, um, because I've been debating who I'm going to leave as trustee uh, of, of, of the birth certificate, and I'm considering leaving the birth certificate to the Governor General of Belize and having him be the trustee and giving them that to the Commonwealth for them to use, as long as I am the beneficiary, as long as I'm benefiting from it. And guess what? It's going to be trademarked and it's going to be copyrighted. So if they come out of line, there are fees. There's a fee schedule for that. So
Damn.
once we learn how to engage with them, how to use these simple little contracts, the law is actually on our side, because see, all these codes, legislations, they don't really belong to us per se, the common man or woman that is not incorporated with them. Or this actually is for them, public officers, magistrates, uh, prosecutors, police officers. Those codes
But
and legislations are for them. They're not for us. You understand?
but they're the most corrupt though. Like they're the ones that are making the laws that supposedly, they say
Yeah,
that
but
they're
they don't
the
know. Yeah, but they don't know, because you see, most. I'll tell you one thing. I went right here in Belize, bro. I found it incredible. I went to the court right here, the magistrate court, bro. I've handed paperwork. I sent them letters, and I know people who work there. It's a small town. Bro, they don't even have a law dictionary in that room, in that place. They don't even have a law dictionary. They're just running shit. They're all compartmentalized, and they're just following the the sets of instructions that they've been given, and the position that they're in, and the titles that they're holding. So it's a pyramid scheme. And that the pyramid scheme really works because the ones on the bottom never know what's happening on the top. And this goes all the way to the top. And not because people seem to be in the top, like CEOs, they understand really what's going on fully. It doesn't necessarily mean that. That's what that's where I'm coming from. Because I mean, this is a lot to take in, and the system, because we are not using the system properly, it creates a lot of, well, room for that type of activity, which we call, corruption. And it is simply because, again, tell me something. Let's say, because there's a lot of talk that people say, well, there's our estate, the legal entity, the birth certificate has accounts and routing numbers, and which is worth hundreds of millions, hundreds of billions of dollars, right? Now, I want to ask you something. Let's say tomorrow, everybody in the United States had access to those accounts of $100 billion. Would you trust everybody with that type of money?
of course not. Of course not.
Well, there you
I
go.
mean,
Because we know.
just look at what, yeah, like what people do when they win the lottery.
Yeah, we know it because we know that we are not ready for it. And the reason that we are in this mess, I believe, this is just my belief, is because we haven't been ready for it. We 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 it takes a lot, to be self-governing, to hold your end of the bargain, to not lie, not cheat. Because in our society, you can see that
Not to
you
kill,
can't.
not destroy, not commit adultery, none of that stuff. You know, right?
So we, the people, have to reach a collective level of understanding not to do those things there. We have to collectively be that way. Most of us right now don't trust each other. I don't trust people with nothing. People say I can't trust people with my money, my house, my kids, my wife. I can't trust people with nothing. It's because, again, I think that's what's happening, is because the reason we haven't been able to trust each other is the system has been so misused, and it's being used so fraudulently, and everybody knows that they're being taken advantage of by each other. But it isn't until right now, I believe, that this is the time that things are being revealed as to what exactly is the fraud. What the hell is actually going on behind the scenes, you know? And when knowledge and information becomes so widespread and available, I mean, man, you just really can't predict what will come out of it so easily, other than there will be a collective upgrade in the human psyche, and I don't know if you ever heard of the thousand monkey experiment.
Oh yeah, right. Bring it out.
Yeah, yeah. So you see how, by a certain amount of monkeys learning how to wash potatoes and eating it in one island, although they weren't in contact with other monkeys in other islands, by them just learning it in that one island, somehow the other monkeys learned it as well, is because it appears more to be that memories are stored not really in the brain per se, but it is probably in some ethereal realm. There's a collective conscious
Yeah.
net which we basically connect to, be it via brains and this biological
Right.
equipment that we have, so we can connect. So obviously, the more of us learn and become aware of this as a collective, um, as the moon phases come in and out, we upgrade. We install updates, and what's going to happen? I'm feeling that we're heading to a beautiful, beautiful future, and that
Yeah.
it's
Let me
being.
let me interject there real quick. Let me interject there real quick, is because you said, I mean, you said a lot of very powerful statements, and I hope everybody's enjoying this conversation that the brother is bringing out, because he's bringing out a lot of information, and I'm sure there's a lot more that he is gonna bring out. You guys know that sometimes we go 5 hours here, so we have time if the brother has time. You know what I'm saying? But welcome to the live, everybody. I hope you guys are able to digest a lot of the information that's brought out, because like the brother's saying, like this entire system is the one controlling the planet in its various form, from like mental, spiritual, subconscious, conscious, intellectual, religious, spiritual matters, and so this is why we have all the mess and the chaos, all the waters, the waters, the water, the law of the waters, the peoples, the nations, the tongues of the world. And so the world is basically they have entered into those waters right now. We're living through those chaotic waters as we speak. And so, how do we bring about the peace that the world needs? How do we bring about the unity of the nations? How do we, I don't know, reach that level of like spiritual connection to the divine self that lies within you? Okay, because most of the time humanity has been seeking God outside of themselves, and when they think about God and they think about their creator, they always think of a man that is somewhere above the heavens with the white robe and all this other stuff, even though some of the angels are described as such. But my point is, like, even Christ the Gnostic, which is the Christ I subscribe to, he was talking about you know uh, seeking the God within yourself, and the God is basically all around us. And so the question is, or the statement that I would like to make, or my question is, if we're all the sons and the children of God, why are we fighting with each other? Why are we so divided? Why are we in so much, why is humanity going through, like, so much killings and hatred and genocide and division and bombings and wars and rumors of wars and all that stuff? Now, mind you, you guys are gonna say, well, that's prophecy, that's prophecy. No, this thing has been going on for ages. It's not just now. It goes back to like the ancient ones and stuff. So um my question is, like, do you think the United States is under the maritime law,
Oh, well, I
like, in your
mean,
opinion?
American law. What do you mean, like American common law?
No, like the United States, like the country, the United States. Do you think they have been like infiltrated by the by that ideology of the maritime law, and that's basically what's ruling the society today?
Well, again, yeah, I mean, the United States, when you say like that, it's not one entity, it's multiple entities, because there's a republic, and then there's the de facto government, which is just there because, I mean, the
DC,
people are
right?
not, yeah, they're not
You
running it
talking about
themselves,
DC,
but I
right?
know that there's, yeah, but I know that there's a lot of I'm friends with some people that are parts of what do you call them? These jewel assemblies that are popping up within the United
Synagogues,
States,
like
the
Black
American
Hebrew
Nationals.
Israelites, the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Well, well, they're the American Nationals. Those are the biggest ones, huge
Oh,
American Nationals. They're the ones who are claiming back their nationalities and coming out of the corporate
the
system.
Moors.
And well, the Moors is a different one too. The Moors is oh well, that's a whole other topic right there. But it's basically it's basically this is it. Is that what's what's governing right now the system are corporate entities, and the bar association is a corporate entity. It's a corporate enterprise, and it is just a fraternity. And now again, you just have to Google it. Just put bar International Bar Association, and you'll see how this agency has spread everywhere in the world. And what they use is they use their legal system. Now, all you got to do as well is that, again, what is legal system? What is this thing here? So this is the law and legal. I mean, you know the difference. I ask people, just if you're going to get into this type of information, at least try to figure out if you understand what the difference between lawful and legal, because then that will give you a foundation from where to start, to at least to analyze the situation. Yeah, because if not, then you're not going to understand you're not going to understand fully. But the legal system is basically the what the corporate system uses, right? This is the world of fiction, the maritime law. When when you create some, let's say like let's say using the laws of the sea, right? You find a ship. Now the ship is lost at sea, so you declare it abandoned. And there's certain commercial um, um, steps you can take in order to claim that legally, right? Legally. So it's abandoned. You claim it, you declare it as yours, and then you give it a title. Because you've given it a title, now you can control it. It's the same thing when you have a corporation. A corporation, they have different titles, different commercial titles. So as soon as you assume the role, you are assuming the role of something that is probably a copyrighted title, right? So it belongs to the company. So when you look at the system that is governing, let's say, the United States, it is the bar association is running practically all of that. They're using the legal system, and the bar is not going to use common law, because common law is used by regular people, private people. So, like for example, I make a contract with you, and as long as me and you can stick to the contract, we're good. But let's say one of us breaches the contract, well, then I don't have to, I can choose to be dishonorable and just go personally to you and just cuss you out, or start a fight or an argument. Or I can act honorably and write to you and say, you know what, uh, in accordance to this agreement of the contract, this you kind of breached it in this way, and can we work something out? And we come to an agreement. If we cannot come to agreement back and forth, then we can bring it up to the court's attention and use that court as a venue to resolve matters honorably. So we have to be honorable in the way we engage with each other as well. um, that's our right to use that type of system, and then we use the court. Now we can use the courts and we can move the courts, but we have to know how to do those things, how to put it in writing, right? And this is a right that all of us have, and we can all do it. But it seems that we were most of the world and was not only deprived of the knowledge and how to move the courts and how to use those rights and exercise those rights, but that most of the people were given some other type of material to learn instead of that, and that material was made mainly other type of fictitious material. And a lot of us, we think in a fictitious way. We go to school and we believe that we need to be somebody. So we go most of our lives wanting to be somebody and never being an authentic self. And we watch these movies, and these movies give us these different scenarios and with characters who react to these scenarios. And then whenever we encounter these scenarios in the real life, we default and we kind of like, mimic these fictitious characters, and we don't really give an authentic expression or reaction. We never have an authentic reaction. So we engage a lot in fiction. So when we go into court, we don't realize that it's all fiction because, again, we've been deprived of the knowledge of how to exercise our rights, and we're living in the world of fiction to where we see most of the movies. There's a lot of power in a man wearing a black robe up there, and you see the police officers wearing, these suits, and we give them power, and we say, man, these people are evil. And we think that these people are separate from us, but in reality, all these people, these judges, these police officers, they're just regular people just like us. They don't even know what the hell's going on. But again, our engagement in fiction, and yes, some of them might know, but again, we don't know a lot of what's happening. We are coming out of the same system. We're coming out of the same school system. We're watching the same movies. We're just following script. And that's why, we call it the Great Awakening, because we're just like hypnotized by the spells. And I recommend, if anybody wants to learn more about what's happening, if you want to know about the system in the US or the system anywhere, get you a law dictionary. Get a Black Laws dictionary or download it on PDF, and look at these words and learn these words. And you'll see that when we go to court, we're being asked to go to some venue that is going to speak a certain language. And it might sound in the language that you are speaking and that you're used to, but it has different meanings to it. And if you're not aware of this and you don't know the rules, you might consent to these things, and it's going to be legal because by consent you can be governed. That's the law. If you want to be a slave, if you want to, pledge your life to somebody, maybe somebody saved your life and you want to pledge your life to them and work for them for the rest of your life and give them your day. Well, you have the right to do that, right? But again, the reason we're being governed by this corporation, the bar association, and think about it. If everybody in court, the magistrate, the judge, the magistrate, the prosecutor, the clerk, if they're all there working and they're collecting maybe some type of extra revenue from all those cases and they're investing in something that's coming out of those venues and it's bringing them money, they have some private gain or private interest from that. Well, that means, and then that's a rigged system. If we know it's a commercial activity, we know it's a corporation, but then it can only be operating for profit. And if it's operating for profit, it cannot be a real court of records. And what is a real court of records? And again, do we understand what a court of records is and a court of non-records is? Right? Is it a public court for the people, or is it a private court for business? You know what I mean? And so I say if people want to know more about this, right now is a great time. There's so much information. Of course, like you say, it's a lot to take in. But what is happening in the U.S., I would say, is just it's a companies that are running it. And if you want to do something about it, try to learn the differences about companies. And the companies cannot rely on the Constitution for its rights. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it relies on something else to govern it, which is the legal system, a legal framework. The legal framework, remember, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a dictionary, 1893, I forgot the name of the dictionary. It says the definition of legal is the undoing of God's law. So if you think about it, God said, well, don't steal, don't lie, don't trespass. But in the legal system, it's like, well, if you pay a certain fee, you get a permission and you get a permit. So it is the undoing of God's law. You understand? It is the legal system is not is a system of fiction, and we probably need to learn a little bit about that, the differentiation of who we are in terms of fiction and nonfiction, and then go from there. You know.
Yeah, man.
So yeah.
Yeah, that was man, that was like, shara tawara. Thank you, gracias for being here, brother, and bringing this information out, and having the time to speak to the sons of light and the children of light out there that are listening, and the ones that are gonna listen later on when this video is posted on my channel. The Great Awakening has begun, and every time it begins and it's begin to take like momentum, right? Then the powers that be begin to do their dirty work, and you guys know what happens after that. But it's kind of like I told you earlier in the very beginning that everything that like our connection, like how I met you and everything, why you're here and all that stuff. And so you were talking about the dictionary, right? And so some years ago I came across this video that basically is saying what you're saying, bro. And like you said, a lot of people are. I mean, I was one of them. I was distracted like way back in the day. I wish I would have known this information before, but it is what it is.
Nowhere in the Bible, but you look up the definition of human in Black's Law, and it says sea monster.
Yeah.
And so monster, look up the definition of monster, and it says one that cannot own or inherit property.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah. Well,
that's
I
pretty
mean,
wild.
think about this, right? I show people. Ah, man, I can read it out to you if you don't mind, but if you can bring it
Go
up.
ahead, bro.
But it's basically that same thing. You see how he showed this thing called the Black's Laws Dictionary, right?
Yep, yep.
Well, there's a dictionary of law, and there's different editions, and I'll read you one from the sixth edition, right? And it's
Right, right.
legalese. Now, legalese is the language of the legal system. So it's like Chinese, Japanese, Taiwanese, legalese, right? So
Right.
I'm going to read it to you, the definition as per the Black Laws Dictionary, sixth edition, right? It's a very short one. It's not a lot. Just, let me read it to you. Here it is. Where is it? Let's see. Legalese. Okay. The peculiar language of lawyers, especially the speech and writing of lawyers at their communicative worst, characterized by antique jargon, pomposity, effective display of precisions, ponderous abstractions, and hocus pocus incantations. You hear that? That's the
Yeah,
definition,
bro. That's pretty powerful. Yeah, that's
right?
pretty
So
crazy, bro, because that's connected to like the spell work that like the wording that is used like in the contracts of our birth certificates or like social security or some other ID forms that every people has nowadays, because everybody's registered. Like you were saying earlier, like very powerfully, how like once you render like like you pay to the system so that the system can sustain you. You've given away your rights. And so that's basically what people has done since the beginning and the inception of this republic called the United States, right? Because this is like you were saying, like this is a republic. So since the inception of that, like this is the system that's been at hand. Like it has been adopted and going back to the Romans and the Egyptians, and we know that America was born out of England. England was basically under the same law by Rome, and then a lot of the Englishmen came here and separated from the crown because supposedly they didn't want to do nothing with the crown anymore. They didn't want to pay no taxes. Some of them were fleeing for their lives, but at the end of the day, the system came with them as well. And so, yeah, like I believe we are, we're in it. We're in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's an interesting topic, bro. I mean, I have been learning so much, and I have a Telegram channel where I share a lot. I have a group of people there that are well, I invite people, but from there, it's just a channel for people to um, do their own analysis, their own interpretation, and try to ask questions and be interactive. And I'm part of a few other groups, and I see people are doing this worldwide. I think this is happening all over the world because I make videos, and I'm surprised how much people from all over the place reach out to me. Not a lot. I'm not saying like I get hundreds, but it's pretty consistent, and it's like encouraging. I'm making friends and connecting and sharing, and Facebook has some groups that I'm part of, and they're sharing as well. And it seems that um, we can trace it back to the Bible as well as how the story of of Jesus is that um, if you he died for your sins, right? So I remember I watched a lecture
According to the
and
narrative, right? Yeah, according to the narrative.
yeah, so this guy was explaining how like the system of finance, how it is that everything is already um, it's already prepaid because that birth certificate is what's basically paid for all the sins, the debts. The debts are considered sins, and how when we when we seek the kingdom of God and we sit in the right side of God, and he was explaining it, and then I remember learning about the ledger, the credit ledger, and how there's a cross. Have you ever seen see how they do accounting and they do a cross and it starts with a cross, and then there's credits on one
Right.
side and debts on another side. So there you
That's
go.
that's
So
pretty interesting, bro. That's pretty interesting because the cross in the Hebrew is the word "tha," and the word "tha" in the Hebrew means an agreement or a contract.
hmm there you go.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's all connected.
in the banking system, that's what's happening. Is all they're doing is creating, their bookkeeping, credits versus debits. And
Yeah,
if you're a creditor and you make that declaration as a creditor and you take control of the debtor, everything is prepaid. Basically, that's what I'm getting from this. And I ran into there's this book, man. And anybody can look it up and get a download the PDF. It's called Cracking the Code, third edition.
mm,
Cracking the Code,
that's
third
pretty.
edition. I
Cracking the
recommend,
Code, third edition. Okay.
yeah, I recommend anybody to just get that, man. That is an amazing book, man. It outlines so much, and it has some,
Let me let me
uh,
write it down again in the comment section. Cracking the code. Okay, cracking
yeah,
the
Cracking
code,
the Code, third edition.
third edition.
Yeah, I'm loving that book, man. I've read a lot, and that's one of them that I'm using right now for because it has in there certain templates of of paperwork which one can choose to use and modify at
Mm-hmm.
their discretion. And there's this one, I want you to think about this now. Um, what if, right? So think about it. When you go to court, and the court on paper, who they're calling out is the all caps name, or they're calling the fiction name, even if it's not all caps, but it's a fiction because you, the living, breathing soul, using that body, you're not a name. You can't be a name unless you claim that you are a name. Then fine, you have all the right to say that you believe that. Then that's fine. But in reality, you are not a name. You're not an orderance. You just are, right? And a name can be property. So it can be intellectual property. So by assuming to be a name, well, the law will assume you will give that type of um, space to assume that you are property, right? So you by just answering, saying, "Yeah, I'm that name," you have to understand what you're saying, according to the law, if one wants to dissect it. And when you go into these
Right.
venues and courts, well, that's what they're doing. They're using linguistics, they're using spells, they're using the science of language. You got to know a little bit of what you're saying. So you can always be truthful, because in reality, you cannot give your body as property to anybody because it's not yours to give. This body, we didn't create it. You know what I mean? So our creator, whoever that may be, whatever your belief is he or she, whatever the creator is, created it. We, at best, at most honest we could be, is to say that we are trustees of it. We're being entrusted with it, and we're supposed to be taking care of it. We're trustees of the body. And as trustees, if I tell you, bro, I want to entrust my house to you, I want you to take care of it for the benefit of my kids, can you go and sell that property? No.
Of course not.
Nah, you're a trustee. You don't have that. You can't. But you
Yeah.
can be entrusted with it, and you can use the property. Yeah, I could tell you, hey man, you could stay over as much as you want. If there's food in that property, you can use it. As a trustee, there's certain
Right.
benefits that come with it, but there's certain obligations.
Right.
So
Right.
this body, at best, and if you want to be honest, under natural divine law, using trust law, saying, in God we trust, fine. I'm the beneficiary, or I'm the trustee of this body. But I cannot give you this body because it's not mine to give. Can't give it to you. Sorry.
Yeah.
The name, well, that's my property. Yes, it's my property. And guess what? You want to do business with it? Fine. Here's some paperwork. This is how much it costs. Let's do business. And it's all
And that's
business.
why
When you go to
people
court,
rose
it's
up.
all business.
Yeah, man,
Hmm?
and that's why people rose up when like this whole pandemic took place. A lot of people that knew the natural law, they literally rose up and marching out in the streets, in Europe, in Korea, in Australia, and that's I mean, we can kind of dive deep into that, but it's
Hmm.
is that that understanding of like knowing your divine self, that you are the divine self, the divine representation of God on this planet. If you consider
Yeah.
yourself to be a children of light, you are
Yeah.
literally, walking in sovereignty from any existence of any, um I don't know, influence of the powers that be that rule this planet at our various levels, right? You declare your sovereignty by understanding your own divine power within, and that's
Yeah.
basically what the brother is going into.
Yeah, well, again, if you want to declare sovereignty, again, we gotta understand what that means. What does it really mean? And again, everything is trust. Trust is the highest form of law. It's air jurisdiction. And if I tell you, well, this land right here, for example, the government says, hey, we want to tax this piece of land right here. Okay, fine. What do you mean? Right? You want to know who the owner of it? Well, it has no owner. What you mean it has no owner? It has no owner. It's in trust. What do you mean that? Well, it's in trust, meaning that this is being taken care of for the benefit of certain people. Can't tax it. No, it don't belong to anybody, right? Under natural law, nothing belongs to the people, really, per se. It's either there for the benefit of the people or there for the people to take care of. So as soon as we start to claim property, saying this is our land, as this is there, honestly, we're going against natural law. Honestly, that's how I'm looking at it. I'm just saying that's my interpretation of it. So if you're going against natural law, claiming property and this and that, saying that it's yours, you're already an admiralty, you're already actually in commerce. You've declared something that doesn't belong to you. You're claiming it as yours. And only you're going to be the benefited, and you're going to take care of it. That's not trust. That's not trust law. So then it's the law of the land, law of man. A man can make rules and laws himself and commercial laws. So, that's why a lot of people can say, well, and they say, well, admiralty law is the most commonly used law of the land now, so it's common law. So they can say that, and if you want to use that linguistics, that's fine. It makes sense. But and we have different jurisdictions. So there's a water jurisdiction, and then common law has to give space to that. Well, how do you do business when you're if you're traveling from one place to the next and you
Contract,
engage with another man in water? So it's
contract.
not it the contract. Yeah, contract is a good means of binding people separately who are apart, and bringing them together. It's fine, but um, when it comes to the highest authority of jurisdiction, it's always going to be trust. And if you can put your properties, your assets, your land, and everything in trust, and meaning you put it on paper, you write it down, everything, outline it, describe it, you appraise it, put it on paper, you get certain people who are going to take care of it, and you outline, list out their obligations and responsibilities and what the benefits will be if they have any, and put it all on paper, documented. That's what you call a trust, right? And now you have that, and you have all these people who are signing this trust. This is the agreement between a lot of parties, with agreement between parties. An agreement between parties is a private contract. And anytime there's a private contract, well, the courts, they have no authority, no jurisdiction, because there's a private contract in trust. So how can they intervene? Only if within the trust we cannot, uh, we cannot, how can I say, we cannot resolve our issues properly, right? Then we're gonna ask the court to help us resolve it, to intervene, because we can't do it ourselves. Then yes, with our permission, or if one of us, committed a crime and that justifies it, well, okay. But once you have your property in trust, and let's say you and 10 family members put all your properties together and combined, right? Let's say $2 million. What you now have is a $2 million worth of property of assets where you can actually go and start a trust account, open a trust account. You go to the bank and say, hey man, I want to open an account. I want to, and then you can set it up in a way that where you can, from what I understand, is you can borrow against the trust. You can take certain pieces of it, a certificate out of that. You create your own little certificate. You already know how much assets you have. You say you have 2 million worth, and one of you guys say, you know what, I want to get, I want to borrow $100,000 from all our assets. Fine, we borrow it from your own asset. Don't get it from you don't have to do it from the bank. You borrow it from your own asset. And they borrow it, and they use that to fix their house and to upgrade their stuff, and that brings even more asset, which they're going to put in the trust. And then the next cycle of appraisal of the trust, because new assets were put in, and because property is always increasing in value, that which was borrowed will be evened out. You understand? It will be offset, and then
What do you?
you can, huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then you can feed and you can grow from your own trust. You can build a bank, and that's what a bank is. A bank is just that. Everybody who goes to the bank and registers, what you're registering is your legal name that has that has commercial energy behind it, which is you, and it's a property, and everybody's putting their property together in this one
Entity.
commercial entity, and they're
Right.
that's that's where they're gonna monetize the money from, you know. So it's a
What do
trust.
you
It's all
what
trust.
do you think? Right, it's a trust, right? So what do you think about this, right? I'm gonna make a statement right now, and I want you to give me your thoughts on the matter. Does it hold any truth or not? The quote is this: I do not consent to be governed. Show me the contract signed by both parties, me and the government, in which I agree to be governed. Does it exist?
Yeah, exactly. No, you don't even have to say. Yeah, definitely. That you can use that, but you gotta stand by it and understand what you're asking for, or what you
Which
because
is trouble, right?
no, but I'm saying is that you gotta have certain things in place to remove presumptions. And for example, um, I know of some people, and I'm sure it worked because I did it too. I just didn't consent to a lot of things, and you could say, you know what, I don't consent to contract nor joinder, right? Because it's a joinder. They're trying to join you in something. I don't consent to contract or joinder. I waive all benefits and offers, and that's it. And you just keep saying that because what they're doing is they're giving you a benefit and they're making you an offer. That's all that's happening in the commercial world. When I went to court and they wanted to remand me again, I figured it out, and I kept saying objection. So when they wanted to remand me again, I said objection, and they wanted to they claim certain things. They made certain assumptions that they can decide certain things from me. I said objection. And why? Because I realized that what they were doing is that they were making me an offer, but it doesn't sound like it. But that's what it is. That they can only make an offer and enforce that contract as soon as they get you in a contract. So, well, remember, a name. You're not a name. At the very best, you can represent the name. So you can be very honest and genuine when you say, well, I'm not that entity. I represent that entity, though. I'm the authorized representative of that entity. And you would be honest and you'd be acting in truth. And you say,
Of
well, I
course.
don't consent to that. I don't consent to contract nor joinder, and I waive all offers and benefits. And just say that. And if the judge ever wants to continue, you just ask them, well, are you administrating my trust and my property right now without my consent? Is that what's happening right now? You can always ask these questions.
Right,
You
right.
know, and there are many other ways. Like I say, there are certain if people just go and get that book, cracking the code, right there, you'll see how you can copyright your name and how you can do a private agreement. A private agreement is between, it's a paper that you are going to agree, you as the living man, the creditor, and you as the representative of the straw man. So basically, the straw man in this private contract between you and this straw man, commercial entity, he or she is going to pledge everything and pledge to be indebted to you for as long as you live. And it's pledging everything as collateral to you. Everything that's under that name has been pledged. And the debt is going to be pledged because the debt is going to be at a total, I'm putting it on mine as $10 billion. So I'm saying in this agreement right here, in this paper, that Chandan Makijani, the all caps, is in debt to the creditor, to the living man, $10 billion of debt. And everything I ever have as the all caps is now collateral for the creditor, the man. And basically, what it is that you also interpret it as a lien. I'm putting a lien on my straw man. So what does that mean? Let's say we go to court. And the court sends you a paper, right? Or anybody sends you a paper or document, and there they have written down that legal straw man name. And that legal straw man name is in a paper that is probably going to the reason it's on that paper is because that paper is at the end result to collect revenue. So it's for profit, it's for commercial use. So automatically that that all caps is being used for commercial activity for profit. So they're doing business with your property. So as soon as you see that name on paper, that means that somebody is doing business with your property now. Not your property, but property that is as collateral to something that is in debt to you. So they say, well, you've been here, this and that, and you've been called and summoned to appear. Well, you can always use many different ways now that you have that private agreement, because you can then file it into the court, and then the court would look at the contract. Man, the contract says, wait a minute, that's property, that's private property, and there's a lien on it. And if anybody wants to make a claim against it, they first have to pay the debt of the straw man. They would have to pay $10 billion lien before they can even make a claim against it. So would they do that? Nah, they just won't use your property anymore because you figured out how to do it. You're playing their game, and it's something that we all can do, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm doing it because I see that it makes a lot of sense, and so far everything I've been learning and putting to practice is simply because it makes sense. That's why I do it. And if it makes sense to you, I mean, think about it. You copyright your name, you put a lien on it, and you have all
Oh,
these
damn.
documents. Yeah, and then you publish it on the newspaper. You get an affidavit from the newspaper that you published it. You make it public. You file it in where it needs to be filed, and get acknowledgement. And again, you do these things here. You're actually um, participating in what a private man, a creditor, a living sovereign man is supposed to be doing. You're expressing that type of characteristics which it takes to be that sovereign creditor man. So you're doing your work, you're doing your what you need to do. So that's what I can share. That's on my end how I look at it, right? I don't know. How do you look at it now that I've shared this with you?
Honestly, that's exactly the way I see it. And like you were talking about, it goes in various forms. And but we see the physical one, the one where you have the first percenters out there that are making the rules. They're making the whatever legislations that they plead good for their own benefit and not for the good of the people, even though they claim that we the people for we the people, right? We the people, according to their constitution, we the people. But it's actually the other way around. It's them against the people. And so I see darkness in the world. I see, like I said, this is an ongoing thing. This is kind of like what I was going into earlier about the history of how this whole system began, and it goes back to like a long time ago. Like I was bringing out, like it goes back to the Egyptians. It goes back, then the Romans acquired that ideology. In continental Europe, laws of uniformity in the maritime law began with the late Renaissance and accelerated with the rise of nationalism in the 17th century, which witnessed adoption of the Maritime Code of Christian the 11 of Sweden in 1667. Then the Marine Ordinances of Louis the 14th of France in 1681. So like all these things began to take place, and like that's how the like that's why that's why we are where we are right now at this very moment, in the various aspects that society and the world is going through, right? There's these people that are instigating a fight amongst themselves, and then people pay the price for it. I'm talking about the wars that have been created by the means of trying to control humanity because of these systems that we kind of like the brother has been sharing for quite some time. And like I said in the beginning, like I wanted the brother to just bring it all out, or I'm not sure if he's holding back. If he is, that's fine. But like so far, like you guys have heard the information, how powerful it is to like know, like this is one of the things when we talk about being awake. A lot of people like you guys link that with like spiritual matters and like mysticism and like, oh, no, bro, like first and foremost, like you have to understand the rules of the game of this place. Like the brother he understands that very highly, as I can tell, and I'm grateful for the information that he's bringing out, and I'm grateful for his presence. But like this is where we are, this is the situation, right? And so when we talk about being conscious, it means to be awakened, but to awaken to the state of our living, the state of our existence on this planet at a physical level. Like just think about it, right? Like I always bring this out all the time. I'm like, okay, so we came into this world to do what? Oh, okay, so to be brainwashed in the schooling system by like half truths and half lies of the ancient history and the forbidden history that's been hidden away for thousands of years from humanity. That's just one section of the truth. The other section is like the stuff that they had, that they hidden, like the healing modalities, the plant medicines. This is why when they came over here, the systems came, like they wanted to basically eliminate all the shamans and the ancient healers, because they understood, like what you guys call it, the living men, right? They understood the living men. As a matter of fact, this is one of the reasons why I dive into plant medicine. And I was able to I was honored enough to meet this beautiful soul, this beautiful brother from the jungle. And he was telling us about the struggles that they go through living in the jungle, because they are free men. They live free with mother nature. They live through the existence and the balance within mother nature, and everything, the animal kingdom, the water systems, the rivers, right? Everything's an entity, everything's alive. We are basically divine beings. We are organisms, just like she is, right? And so there's like a difference of beings, and so that's kind of like where we are right now. I feel like we are at war, and this war hasn't ended, and the war has been going on for quite some time. I'm not talking about just centuries. I'm talking about thousands of years. And we can talk about the physical aspects of that slavery of the human race, which is what the brother brought out very eloquently and powerful and beautiful. Because from my understanding, knowledge is power, right? Whoever has the knowledge has the power, and this is why this knowledge has to be like hidden away from the public, because once the like the brother, like we were just talking about numbers earlier, about let's just think about people understanding these things, these how everything works really, and how to go around and how to navigate. If 2 million people understood that, right, it'll be a different world.
Yep,
uh
yep.
you know yeah, so that's kind of like that's how powerful this information is. But so the brother is
Well, I
doing it.
appreciate you inviting me, bro. I really appreciate you, and I try to share as much as I can, and I feel like I still have so much more to learn because it's unbelievable the amount of information that has been kept. I wouldn't say much kept away from us for that long. Well, recently, I mean, I remember watching this video, like I share with people, when I started learning about how to heal myself. And I remember I was watching this video from this professor in some college. I think it was USC or something. And I'm here in Belize, right? And I'm just on Wi-Fi. I'm on the internet. And I remember looking at the students in that video, how they were sitting in classes, right, and looking and learning. And I'm like, wow, I'm so privileged. I'm so blessed because I didn't even pay to get into that school. You know what I mean? And I'm privy to all this information so free. And I think that the war that we feel is the tension which comes before the break. You know, like when you see like an egg that hatches, obviously it takes the development of that to grow and grow and grow to the point where the stress breaks free, you know, and opens and cracks the egg. So that rebirth, that what we're going right now is that, you know, we are reaching that level to where we will crack into something new, given all this information that is coming, and that we probably were not so much, it was not hidden from us, not much maybe, it was just we were just ignoring for whatever reason it might be, but we were ignoring and we are being taken advantage of. And now that we're learning how to read symbols a little bit more, because by learning about this whole common law, natural law, maritime law, we look at words now and we realize that they're just symbols. You know, they are symbols. They can mean different things, you know, and we're learning now that we have to look at these symbols and take in consideration what venue it's being used in, and are we willing to contract to that or not? Are we going to consent to this or not? And how, what symbols are we going to use in our contracts, and you know, how are we going to define it? And that's why I like these different private contracts, which you can find in that book that I mentioned. Um, that it defines the many of the words that you're using in your contracts. It defines them, outlines them right away, so there's no assumption or presumption. And and we see that these words are symbols, and now that we're collectively paying more attention to that which we were ignoring, we are waking up. We are coming out of the hypnosis, and what we are probably going to experience is, you know, a different a level of interaction, social interaction, because you know we can use technology for our benefit, for the benefit of the people, as opposed to right now it is the benefit of the companies. This whole trust law is multidimensional, and our existence is also that, and our experience is just that. Is that as we change, more of us become more aware and make more conscious decisions, and you know, more of us realize that you know, we are changing together and we're morphing into something else, something more conscious. And and we don't really necessarily have to look at it forever as we're in a war fighting with this monster. We could actually start to look at it as we've defeated the monster, and now what? Now what do we do? How do we do this now? How do we govern ourselves now? How do we use technology for the benefit of everybody? How do we agree with this? How do we work together? How do we do it without the guidance of the unnatural corpse system? You know? So if we want to liberate ourselves, obviously, you know, we got to be ready for that type of freedom, the responsibility that comes with freedom, you know? I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand. A lot of people are not used to it. Well, you know, I when the pandemic took place, I had to like go into the wilderness and like stage my stage my command center there, and just wait, just wait for the end of the world, you know, because
Hmm.
I mean things were pretty ugly, man. I don't know if you noticed the world, how the state of the world was, and everybody was, you know, afraid of whatever the like, you know, quote unquote, you know, because apparently
Yeah,
if you mention the name you get blocked, and then you're not able to speak your truth, you know. And it's like some bullshit on YouTube as well. Facebook does the same
yeah,
shit about like certain words you say, and then they block you because, oh my god, like how dare you say the word even though everybody knows the truth.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
it's like
well,
yeah,
it's not
man. So it's
forever.
like
It's not forever. I mean, like I said, we know that it's When
Yeah.
it first started, it was hard. Everybody was like, nah, the fact checkers are real. Nah, it can't be a scam. Nah, it's not
Right.
a, you guys are crazy. It's reached a point that it's become so obvious now. And that's what it
Yeah.
is. The time of revelation is the time of obvious, the time of common sense.
Bro,
That's
and
what's
then
been
and yeah,
permeating.
yeah, and what you mentioned right there is like the time of revelation. That's exactly what the book of Revelations in Spanish you call it el libro de la revelación. El libro de la
Yeah,
revelación is basically like the book of the apocalypse. The word apocalypse in the Greek means that it means the revealing of that which was hidden away. So
exactly.
yeah. So we're living in those ages right now. Like there's a lot of stuff that was hidden away that is coming out to the light. And when we talk about like that which is coming from the darkness into the light, it can be many things. It could be like the things that the brother was talking about how the system works and how the system manipulates humanity to become basically like you're a product in the market every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
by consent and by
yeah,
ignorance,
right, right,
just like that,
exactly.
by consent and by ignorance, and that's gonna fade away as more of this, like me and you are having this conversation, and this this conversation is like an impact. It will permeate. It will cause some type of influence, whether it be on one individual or not, but it's growing. It will help grow what we need in order for this to develop into something actually significant, and it will eventually. That's what it's heading to. That's what I feel. That's the
Do you
possibility. Mm.
do you think the Federal Reserve banking system will ever basically stop being from being doing what they're doing and then the things that the shit that they've been doing for ages? You think that will ever come like to an end?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, do the people? I think that it would take most of the people to understand the credit system
We
for
right.
for the federal banking system to go, because the federal banking system is there to make sure that the securities for the creditor, which is whoever paid the debt for the United States when it went bankrupt, and before it could operate again, it had to go in a system, and that was the bank. It's on bankruptcy. All countries are operating on bankruptcy until they become sovereign, which sovereign means that you have, you're independent. You have credit, you have assets, you have everything, you have land, you have
Now now
titles, you
that you're
have all
talking
these.
about that, yeah, now that you're talking about that, like what you're saying, do you think that's connected to like, for example, you have North Korea, you have Russia, you have Assyria. I think those are the three only countries. I mean, I don't know, Cuba maybe and Venezuela. I'm not sure. I could be mistaken, but those are the only countries that where the what would you call it, where the Federal Reserve System or banking systems are not in place. You think that's
Yeah,
why, like, do you think that's why, like, the Western society or the Western military complex goes around basically trying to subdue these guys to like, hey, like let me twist your arm in the back on your back and see if you want to like bow down to such and such and such and such and such regulations and obligations rules, and they don't
yeah.
want to. And so you think that's basically why this is going on to like render the entire planet in a blanket of darkness by who. You think that's basically
Well,
what's going on?
well, well, humanity has a long history, and all these different families. What they've reached positions not overnight. It's with information that has been knowledge that has been passed on, and processes of legalities or lawful practices which extended, over a period of time, which they settled, or they settled a certain foundation or roots. They settled roots. How about that? To where they're firmly established in this system, and doesn't mean that one family took everything over. It just means multiple families probably were able able to have things in place which didn't allow room for the federal system, whoever the federal system is being controlled by, to to trespass on their territory, on their business. So they had certain things in place. I wouldn't know exactly what's happening in those countries. I
That's
have no idea.
crazy.
It
That's
just would
crazy that you
say,
just yeah, that's
"Mhm,
crazy that you just mentioned like who is controlling the federal banking system? That's like a question. That's a serious question because a lot of people can say like the directors, the ones that in front of the federal system, the federal banking system. There's like people, the puppets. I call them the puppets. The ones that show themselves, but like who's really
yeah,
running the whole thing? Like at the very core of the federal banking system.
yeah." Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people claiming that they know exactly, and at least they have an idea of which families and well, obviously, what it is that the federal system is collecting revenue for
Right.
an agreement that has been made. An agreement was made, and the agreement pledged the people as some type of collateral, and they had to give some security for that collateral to whoever paid the the debt for the country. So let's say the king offered to pay the debt for the country. He knew how to do that. He probably understood what that means better than the people who was up against him. And he not only paid the debt, but he says, "Here, what I'm gonna help you build a system too." To thrive again, to get you back, and and it's going to be a system to administrate all the assets of the land, and then out of that, the people are going to benefit out of it. We're going to help you with that system, offer you that system, and but at the same time, because we're going to give you all this help, give you all this, you know um, we're going to help you build social structures and give you all this uh, um, systems which you can use in your society to be a part of international commerce now, in a better and improved way. We need to have this in place right here to oversee the accounting system and make sure that what belongs to us comes to us as creditors and as the ones who paid your debt. And so the people are pledged as collateral, and on paper they're pledged as U.S. citizens, or right here in Belize is Belize citizens, meaning corporate citizens and titles that belong to a company, and only like that they enslave people is by consent. So if the people agree to be a citizen, well, they're agreeing to be part of the company. They're agreeing to be incorporated. They're agreeing to be that property, which will
Right.
back up that paper, that certificate of title, that birth certificate. So there's a bond. So by the belief of the people, thinking that the government is there to help them, and not knowing the history, not understanding how things work, they by consent we bond to these different birth certificates, and these certificates are used as securities. And the federal banks, well, they're there because it's business. The world is business now. You can't just do away with it. It's there. And it will take the people have would as a whole would just have to gain more knowledge about this whole topic. Yeah. But yeah,
Right.
brother,
You go.
I unfortunately won't be able to take much longer with you right now. I would have to
Yeah.
go within the next 10 minutes. So sorry, but I love the conversation. I wish I could talk more to you,
No,
and we can
no, you're good,
definitely do
brother.
it
No,
again.
you're good. It was great that you were here, bro. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming on the show. Once again, you are more than welcome to come back whenever you like. But I just want to appreciate your time, and thanks for the information, the powerful information that you brought out. and I hope everybody were able to enjoy it. Any last words you would like to say before you go?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, if people want to hear a little bit more, I don't put out a lot on YouTube because, like you said earlier, YouTube does a lot of censorship. They brought down a lot of my videos when it was COVID time, but I have some videos there where I just simply explain my perspective, what I learned, my experience. Or on Facebook, people are welcome to go visit my page under that name, Chandan Makijani, and they want to join the Telegram channel. Happy to join. Again, it's a channel just for self education. You do with that information what you would like to do with it, and I would encourage everybody to use this time. Right now is the time to invest in learning something about this topic, anything about this topic, just learning and be open to it, and understand that it's a big web of a topic, and just to try to not overwhelm yourself, but at least try to learn it, at least try to understand who you are. What do you want to do in this world? Do you want to be of service in this world, or do you just want to be for yourself? I mean, if you want to be for yourself, you have the mountains, you can go and do whatever you want. You're free to do whatever you want. But if you want to be part of this collective experience, right now is a good time to join the collective movement, which is to be part of this big change that is obviously occurring, and everybody can feel it to some degree. And to be open to learn and to put into practice what we're learning for the benefit of each other. Because if we do it for the benefit of each other, it just seems to end up better. The outcome is so much more convenient for everybody if we do it. If all of us work to that benefit of each other. And I thank everybody again for listening and tuning in. And again, this is just my perspective. I'm not claiming none of this is true and fact. And I don't want to impose a belief on anybody. I'm not saying believe me. If anything, look into what I said. Just validate it yourself, research it, but just take it as a perspective. As my opinions. And yeah, happy learning. If you decide to go, good for you. If you decide to learn more, good for you. And let's do this, man. We all got our part, believe it
Change.
or not.
Yeah, that's true. All right,
Mhm.
brother. Hey, man, it was an honor for you to be here, man. Hopefully, some other time we can do the same. I'll see you guys around on Facebook. I'll hit you up on the chat group later. So, but thanks for coming on the show, bro. Have a great night.
You too, brother. More blessings. Take care.
You as well, man. Peace. There it is. There it is, brothers and sisters. The information came out. There was a lot of stuff that the brother brought out. The last thing that I kind of want to add to what the brother was talking about with the federal banking system, right? Legal is not lawful, and lawful is not legal. There's a huge difference between lawful and legal. Legal is to undermine what is lawful. You guys heard? Legal is to undermine what is lawful. Legal is contract and falls under Admiralty law. Law is land, air, and water. The three duties, right? Like when you guys talk about jurisdiction, the word duties is talking about the right law, and the word diction is basically the way the words are used in the proper form and function within a given duties, which is duties is the right law, and this is basically where you got the word jurisdiction, which is the right law given in function, like when you understand like how is really what's going on. And so I'm gonna go into the U.S. Code, Title 12, Chapter 3, Subchapter 7, 411. It says Federal Reserve Notes, aka lender legal tender. You see that? legal tender. Here we go, you guys. You guys earlier I said that legal is a contract and falls under Admiralty law. Now, in the U.S. United States Code, Title 12, Chapter 3, Subchapter 7, 411, it, it begins with Federal Reserve notes, aka legal tender, to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors. See, you guys heard the wording? The discretion. What is discretion? When you want to keep things what? Secret, right? So at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Who are these governors of the Federal Reserve System, and who picked them up? Who chose these so-called Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, right? Because I mean, we can just kind of like say what what you guys know and be like, oh yeah, creating money out of thin air and such. Uh, Federal Reserve notes, aka legal tender, to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for the purpose of making advances to Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents. Who are these agents? Where is their allegiance to, or whom is their allegiance to, right? So they're agents as hereinafter set forth and for no other purpose. You see that? Here and after, meaning from the inception of the beginning of this entire system, right? To the here and after, which is the after is basically now. This is the after. Set forth and for no other purpose are authorized. So these agents have been authorized since the inception of the beginning, and there's like a lineage of agents and these like secret whatever governments that are going on ruling this place and other places at bay and other places on the other side of the seas. Da, 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 da. The said notes shall be obligations of the United States and shall be receivable by all national and members banks and Federal Reserve banks, and for all taxes, customs, and other public dues. They shall be redeemed in lawful money. See that? On demand at the Treasury Department of the United States in the city of Washington, District of Columbia, or any Federal Reserve Bank. And then this is basically the destruction of the dollar, right? Because the dollar that we have right now, certain individuals that I will not mention names, certain corporations that I will not mention names either, certain secret organizations that I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with, they have taken an oath to like literally, create the chaos in order to bring about the order by them making the rules and the legislations even more and farther out from the truth and the freedom of man, the living man, like the brothers were bringing out earlier. So that's just one example of like what we see, the decay of society, and understanding, like, once again, understanding like the wording, understanding like how the contracts work, understanding how the law works, how are we, like the brother was bringing out, very powerful. I hope you guys were able to catch it, but the signing of the contracts and how you become an entity, like the minute you consent, then you give your part of your authority to like another entity other than yourself, right? Because they think that we're not capable of like ruling ourselves and whatnot. So this is why they were set up, and so but now it's all backwards. So um yeah, I think that's kind of what I wanted to bring out. Let me see. In 1871, Congress incorporated under the business name, quote, the United States of America, end quote, in all capital letters, right? The U.S. is not a country or a state. For a lot of the brothers that are out there, feeling all patriotic and stuff, like, oh, 4th of July, 1976, Independence Day. Like a lot of brothers, a lot of Americans that claim to be Americans and very patriotic. Like if you guys learn the darkest things behind 1776, like you'll be, yeah, you'll your mind will be basically switched. That's all I'm gonna say. The U.S. is not a country or a state. It is a corporation. See, you don't own yourself. The Federal Reserve does. On your birthday, on your birth certificate, and this is what the brother was bringing on. Like at the bottom, it states that the American banknote or Banknote Corporation of America. That's on your birth certificate, right? Again, what is it? Home of the brave, land of the free, or whatever, right? So I mean, uh, again, like everything, like entire humanity has been like set in deception, but now, like, we're living in the times of revelation, the times of apocalypse. Apocalypse meaning the revealing of that which was hidden. And so a lot of stuff is coming out. A lot of people are coming out from everywhere in the world, right? Brothers in South America. The brother that you guys met just tonight, he's in Central America. He lives down there and stuff. And I think they live off the land and stuff. I mean, I don't want to go into details because that's for him to say. But that's how I met his partner and stuff. And it's a lot of people are waking up to disconnect from the entire system, right? Because the entire system is really keeping people more. I don't want to say the word. I would say like it's keeping people in a blissful ignorance. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's pretty wild. Uh, once your birth certificate is registered, right, with the U.S. Department of Commerce, the department notifies the Treasury Department, which takes out a loan from the Federal Reserve by using your own birth certificate. You see that? The red numbers on your birth certificate are bank notes. See that? Your life is only valued between $650,000 to $750,000. That's how they value like humans, according to this article right here. Legally, you are considered to be a slave or indentured servant to the various federal, state, and local governments via your state is sued and state credit created birth certificate in the name of your all caps person, right, which is a fictitious individual. Birth certificates are issued so that the issuer can claim exclusive title to the legal person. You guys remember that legal is not always lawful? To the legal person created thereby. See, you are not a person, you are a commodity. That's basically it. And that's the truth of the matter. So, but I mean, we can continue to dive deep and deep and deep and deep and deep and deep and all this whole stuff. But at the end of the day, there is the live birth record, and then you have the birth certificate. One baby is born and endowed. The birth certificate, which is a title created by the state, is basically a cargo birth. Berthed. The word birth goes back into like a contract or like a cargo, right? So that's like the difference of this whole system. We can kind of like dive into this whole thing. Let me show you that right there. You see that? This is the live birth record. This is the title created by life. This is the divine being. This over here is the birth certificate, which is the title created by the state, which goes into the cargo of birth, Berthed, which goes into the agreement or the contract that the brother was speaking about. But anyways, what else can we show you before I leave? And then we're gonna take off. But I just want to thank everybody that came on the show. Everybody came and tuned in. Thanks for watching the show. Hopefully, like I said, I wasn't gonna do tonight, but I just wanted to bring the brother out so that he can actually share this powerful knowledge that he's been studying, that he's been living, because basically he's a living testimony and stuff. And so, kind of like it's pretty wild to like really take on that life, to like live like a life that is disconnected to the system. Like a lot of people will find it very like, wow, very, I don't know, just kind of like a weird experience, not to like find out that there's people that actually been living what they're speaking about. You know what I'm saying? Like when we talk about the sovereignty of like everything, and so I mean it's a lot of people have various levels, and there's no judgment there, bro. I don't judge nobody here. But thank you for watching. Let me see. Anybody that wants to come in on the show, let me know. I'll share the link. Otherwise, I'm gonna take off. Let me see. I'm gonna share the link if anybody wants to come and say any words. Otherwise, I'm gonna take off. But thanks for watching, everybody. You guys have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay grounded, and keep uh, keep ascending. Informant mother on exactly, exactly, brother. That's exactly it. It's right there. It says right there. Um, I saw it earlier. See it right there. A living entity. Fisher, grower, man and woman, writer, record of life, birth. Innate rights and freedoms. You see that? When we talk about innate rights and freedoms, we're talking about like you God given gifts, like something that is innate to yourself. Is like something that comes natural to you and to who you are. So, for example, like back in the day, you have like a lot of people that were healers back in the 1500s, and you have a lot of the inquisitors or the Inquisition from the Vatican Church, the papacy of Rome, going after these people because they were basically exercising that which was innate to themselves, which was what? To heal the sick, to like I don't know, like transmute energy, or like read people psychically, or things like that. All of that was suppressed. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's the natural man that we're talking about. The natural man is the one that has achieved like the what the Hindu people call the cities, the cities means like when you begin to like really tap into this ability to heal and like help people like in various levels, right? So that's kind of like the message that I see going on right now, as many more and more people begin to like wake up from the matrix, and the veil is lifted up, from off of the eyes. So shout out to everybody that came on the show, and I'm gonna take out Nazarene Essene Faithist. Thanks for coming on. Rudy Diaz, um, Sister Michelle, Natural Mystic, and everybody else that came on the show. I just want to thank you for coming on, and hopefully you guys were able to take something out of it. Uh, what else? Let me see. I have something else I wanted to bring out and end it with that. Let me see. Give me a minute. There it is, right there. Man, whew. You guys want to stay for like 12 more minutes? I want to bring this out real quick before we call it. Let's see. What do we do? Artificial person. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about these real quick. All right, we're gonna close with these. So, thanks for coming on the show.
Think of an aspect of your
Enjoy
life
this real
that
quick.
dictates the limits of your freedom. Government and law enforcement, insurance and pharmaceutical companies, taxes, building permits, driver's licenses, and more. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of stipulations, regulations, and boundaries on our freedom. And out of the ones that were just mentioned, how many have you researched to find out whether they apply to you or not? Let's look at the forms of law that we currently acquiesce to. common misconception among people is that any rule or regulation that governs them falls under one category, law. But there are many other forms of law that people abide by without realizing that they simply do not apply to them. Another misconception is that a nation's constitution gives us our rights. A constitution does nothing more than list the rights that we already have. We are born with inalienable rights, endowed to us by our Creator. They are not given to us, and they cannot be given away. The most a person can do with a right is choose whether to exercise it or not. Maritime Admiralty law is what's known as the law of the water. It is superseded by civil law and only applies to those who willingly contract themselves into it. The definition of Admiralty law is a body of private international law governing the relationships between private entities which operate vessels on the oceans. Let's look at how and why a form of law that is fashioned to govern corporations, businesses, and vessels has imposed its rule over natural human beings. This is all done through a form of word magic. A simple perversion of language has made it possible to convince people around the world that these alternative laws apply to them. One of the predominant beliefs in modern culture is that licenses, permits, registrations, and other forms of documentation are required to operate motor vehicles, use public roads, build structures and establishments, engage in free enterprise, and much more. Sadly, these beliefs are based on little to no investigation whatsoever and are false. This belief structure is perpetuated by Maritime Admiralty law. This form of law was originally created to govern ships docking in foreign nations for the import or export of products and resources. It deals with banking and merchant affairs, not civil affairs. When a product is taken off of a ship and brought into a foreign land, that nation takes custody of the resource and accounts for it with a certificate. That certificate marks the birth date of that product in the custody of the respective nation. Think of why it is supposedly required to have a certificate of live birth in the first place. The Barron's Dictionary of Banking Terms defines a certificate as a paper establishing an ownership claim. So right there, we notice that everyone with a birth certificate is defined as being owned. People are used as collateral with other nations because the U.S. is bankrupt. The United States declared bankruptcy on March 9th of 1933. At this point, the U.S. began taking out loans from a private, non-government affiliated corporation called the Federal Reserve. With no money to pay back the loans, the United States began using the citizens as collateral. All birth and marriage certificates are literally warehouse receipts. Just look at the similarities of warehouse receipts and birth certificates. Both document the date of issue, a serial number, registration number or receipt number, a description of the product, and an authorized informant to notify the appropriate government agency. With all of this information being readily available, the majority of people are unaware of their involvement with Maritime Admiralty law. This is possible through the manipulation of language. This Admiralty law changed the meaning of the word person from a natural living person to a corporation. Driver's licenses, vehicle registrations, auto insurance forms, building permits, gun permits, work permits, tax filing documents, birth and death certificates, traffic citations, and many other forms of documentation that were once believed to be absolutely necessary only applied to persons or corporations. Upon signing such a legal document, you are indirectly waiving your rights under the Constitution and lowering your status to that of a corporation that is created with the same exact name as you. The only way to reconcile your true name from the name of the corporation is to take notice that the corporation has its name in all capital letters. This is known as capitis diminutia maxima. You may take notice that your driver's license, birth certificate, social security card, insurance cards, and more use all capital letters to legally represent the corporation with your name. not you. The corporation is known as an artificial person, whereas you, the human being, are known as a natural person. This deception goes even deeper when it comes to the courts that we attend. When showing up to court, you will notice that there are seats for witnesses behind a wooden fence or barrier. The defendant must cross through the entrance to the other side of the barrier where the plaintiff and judge sit. This act symbolizes the boarding of a ship. At this time, business can be conducted in maritime admiralty law. The judge, acting as captain or banker, is responsible for settling the balance between the two sides. This is why there is always a monetary value involved in any court case. The captain is simply dealing with banking and merchant disputes. Once the balance is paid, the case is closed. To turn the court case away from admiralty law where your rights are not protected, you must avoid agreeing to represent the artificial person. This is done by stating that you are the natural person. You don't have a first or last name because those imply corporate title. In a court case, you may state that the court takes judicial notice of your Honor's oath of office. Every judge must take an oath of office to practice law, yet you must make it clear to the court and the jury that the judge is acting as judge and not banker. Remember that you are a natural human being of the earth. You are not governed by anything but your own consciousness. Laws are created within a society. The society that created the laws we see being enforced today is called the Law Society. Yet the most beautiful part of this entire deception is the fact that we are not part of the Law Society, so their laws do not apply to us.
Judges, lawyers, and law enforcement officers, they're all part of a society. Within that society, they've created their own language that's deceptively similar to English. They have these little things called statutes, acts, and regulations that seem like laws, but they really only apply to those within their society. So that basically means all the traffic violations, minimum age requirements, and everything except for damage to another person or their property doesn't really apply to the natural person.
Laws only apply to those within the Law Society. The game being played is an illusion. You can simply choose to open your eyes and reclaim the freedom that you were born with, bound by nothing but the limits of your imagination. These are just a few examples of assuring that your rights are being protected. By far, the most important line of defense against this deception is to be aware of the perversion of language, and be absolutely aware of how you form your beliefs and concepts.
Let me read this real quick. It says, in religion and politics, people's beliefs and convictions are in almost every case gotten at secondhand and without examination from authorities who have not themselves examined the questions not at issue, but have taken them at a second hand from other non-examiners whose opinions about them were not worth a brass farthing. Mark Twain. Well, anyway, so I have a last one, and then we're gonna take off. The last one right there. All right. Yeah, so this is basically the civil law flag. The civil flag intended for peacetime usage in custom house civilian settings had vertical stripes with blue stars on a white field. You see that? By the law of the flag, this design denoted civil jurisdiction under the Constitution and common law, as opposed to military jurisdiction under Admiralty military law. And so this was basically kind of like the symbol of, peace and harmony and amongst your fellow humans and whatnot, because you were living off, you were the living men, right? But then something changed, right? When you guys go and watch the flag, I mean, the flag completely looks different, right, than the one we just witnessed. And There is I was gonna bring this article. I'm probably gonna bring it out, but it explains farther out like how it changed and how like when I read you guys the history, how like the maritime law was, it began going back to the Egyptians and to the Roman Empire. From Rome got to England, and everywhere else, and then it came to America and stuff. And so when America adopted that ideology going back to those 1600s, the flag changed. And so there is no constitution basically. The United States is under no constitution right now. And this is why the ones that are basically making the laws and passing legislations and whatnot, they're the ones basically breaking this whole system, destroying everything else. And yeah, it's pretty wild, bro. But yeah, I hope you guys were able to get something from it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room.